वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्री श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर प्रभुपाद महाराज की अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपिका श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की श्री वृंदावन धाम की नवदीप मायापुर धाम की श्री क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा माई की यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी की भक्ति देवी की ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की सामवेद भक्तवृंद की ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द असम्बल्ड डिवोटीज ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द असम्बल्ड डिवोटीज ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द असम्बल्ड डिवोटीज ऑल ग्लोरीज टू श्री गुरु एंड गौरांग ऑल ग्लोरीज टू शील प्रभुपाद की जय नमो विष्णु कृष्ण मिष्ठाय पुत्र श्रीमद् भक्ति We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3rd, Chapter 4, Text number 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Jnanam Param Swatma Ha Prakasham Provacha Kasmai Ka. Sorry, that was in the translation. Bhagwan Samagram Shamam Nah Granaya Bharata Vada Anjasa Yad Rijanam Tarema Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Provacha Kasmai Bhagwan Samagram Api Shamam No Granaya Bhartar Vadanjasa Yadvrjinam Tarema Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Provacha Kasme Bhagwan Samagram Api Shamam No Granaya Bhartar Vadanjasa Yadvrjinam Tarema Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Provacha Kasme Bhagwan Samagram Api Shamam No Grunaya Bhartar Vadanjasa Yadvrjinam Tarema Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Vachagasmai Bhagwan Samagram Abhishamag Varunaya Bhartur Saya Vajinam Tarema Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Vachagasmai Bhagwan Samagram Aishamam Granaya Bhartur Adam Jasaya Yadvrjinam Tarema Jnanam Param Prakasham Vachakasmai Bhagwan Samagram Bhartur Adam Jasaya Vrajanam Tarema Jnanam Saram Satmaraha Prakasham Vachakasmai Bhagwan Samagram Samam Pranaya Bhartur Saya Srinam Prema Jnanam Saram Saratma Prakasham Vachakasmai Bhagwan Samagram Samvaranaya Bhartur Varnasaya Tvarinam Vrajana. Anybody else from the Prabhus?
Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham
Jnanam Gurum Atma Prakasham
Provachakasmai Bhagavan Samagram
Vachakasmai Bhagwan Samagram
Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhartar
Pishamam Granaya Bhartum
Vadanjasaya Vrijinam Tarema
Vadanjasaya Zunam Tareha. Mataji's? Jnanam Param Satmaraha Prakasham Provachakasmai Bhagwan Samagram Apishamam No Granaya Bhartar Jasayana Vrajinam Tarema. Okay, so the word to word translation Jnanam, knowledge, Param, supreme, Swatma, own self, Raha, mystery, Prakasham, enlightening, Provacha, said, Kasmai, unto Ka, Brahmaji, Bhagwan, the personality of Godhead, Samagram, in sum total, Api, if so, Shamam, able, Naha, unto me, Granaya, acceptable, Bharata, O my Lord, Vada, say, Anjasa, in detail, Yat, that which, Rijinam, miseries, Tarem, can cross over. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. My Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, that transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself and which you explained before to Brahmaji. Purport. A pure devotee like Uddhav has no material afflictions because he engages constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. A devotee feels afflicted without the association of the Lord. Constant remembrance of the Lord's activities keeps the devotees alive. And therefore, Uddhava requested that the Lord please enlighten him with the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, as previously instructed to Brahmaji. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishram Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Savadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapatakamelam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvitam Sahudutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yat Krupatam Homande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pishtai Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatharine Vanchakalpaturu Bhaisya Krupa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vishtai Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivikas Swami Niti Namine. So I'll just read the translation once more. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, sorry, I was just reading what I had kept for. My Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, that transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself and which you explained before to Ramaji. So here Uddhava is requesting to the Lord to explain the transcendental knowledge. But before that he is saying that if you feel we are competent enough to understand. So means he is laying this condition wherein whether we are qualified or not. If somebody doesn't know to, like if I don't know how to make cakes like all of you, So if I go and try, on my own, so I won't be. I may experiment or I may end up doing something, but that won't be as efficient as you are doing, isn't it? Because you have been practicing that regularly, or you have the ins and out of everything in that, isn't it? So similarly, this transcendental knowledge, it has various subject matters. Not everything can be understandable for everybody. For somebody it will be like, the service, doing the service will slowly, gradually doing service, he will be, he will progress, isn't it? Initially, whenever we go to any temple, normally the devotees, slowly they engage us in some service, some form of service, and that way we get, our heart cleanses, and slowly then we start understanding this subject matter. Initially it's like, it goes over the head, isn't it? Nothing goes. Like initially we feel, then the second time we hear that again and then feel, that is what he told last time, but you gather this, means this time you get the subject matter that he's telling. So how does this happen? It happens by the mercy of the Lord and His devotees. So the competency doesn't develop on our own actually. It is basically the mercy of the devotees. Like first the jiva comes, then he doesn't know that we should pay obeisances or anything. Like even in India, when we used to just do like that and move. Sometimes you see in temples, people come, directly go to the main altar. Like in Baroda, they have Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, in between Radha Shyam Sundar and then Gaurnitai. So people don't know that Radha, more than Gaurnitai, Prabhupada is more merciful. They directly go to, even not to even to go Gaurnitai, they go directly to Radha Shyam Sundar. Because in Baroda they have this liking for Radha and Krishna. And many of these videos in YouTube, they are like basically on that only. So they directly go to Radha Krishna, even not to Gaurnitai. So, but they don't know, because they don't know initially that, okay, by the mercy of devotees only we can go to Radha Krishna. They directly want to go to the shelter of Radha Krishna, which they are not going to go anyways. So it's like, and initial stages, then some devotee teaches him, they come and ask, why do you pay obeisances like that? And why do you pay obeisances like that? Then he asks questions. Then the devotee, he is just finding that chance to preach him. So he tells that, okay, if you pay obeisances, like normally in most of the temples, Prabhupada is right in front. Like here we have like that. So in Hyderabad also it is like that. Hyderabad or some temples it is there. So then we explain them that, okay, we pay obeisances because if we put our feet down this way, then it will go to the acharyas, or if we do this way to the acharyas, then this is offensive. Then he inquires more, and then we tell him about, and slowly we call him for programs, give him prashadam. Yeah, I remember many devotees used to preach me, but one devotee used to preach, and at the same time he used to give me this Rajbhog, halwa, puri, and so, and slowly he pulled me, I still remember his name, I still remember his face. Like I have total reverence for him, because many people preach me, but then somebody preaches you and that person, that clicks you. And then we used to go, and every time somebody used to take so much care. Then he taught us many things. The first initial stages he taught like how to pay obeisances. First thing he taught chanting, and then he gave some services in between. So like that. So when we come to the temple, we pay obeisances to Prabhupada or to the Lord. Then the mercy starts flowing. Why, Because many devotees have, for example, this room or this hall of ours, maybe some Prabhupada disciples or great personalities have been to these places. Like example, they go to Guru Puja, example, Guru Maharaj comes, he goes to maybe that person keeps his head right there, isn't it? So it's like he gets the shelter of the pure devotee. He's not knowing this thing, but then the process itself so beautiful, slowly is like, it's like an infection. Maybe sometimes he gets the mercy of the lotus feet of the devotees, sometimes the remnants of the Lord. Like in the remnants of the Lord is called, normally we call prasad. Prasad, it's elaborated by somebody told me, maybe outsider or I don't know exactly. He said prasad means Prabhu Sakshat Darshan. Means Prabhu Sakshat Darshan. Means the direct darshan of the Lord it is actually. So the remnants, the outsiders, how they honor it, that is also important. Like if prasad, if we eat like food, and if we eat like prasadam, there is a difference, So then that affects. And the services we get, sometimes in the temple we used to go into, I came in Pune in devotional life. So there they used to let us wash vegetables or do something, and after you're regular, then they used to let us cut the vegetables also like that. Means for the general kitchen, they used to make Sunday feast prasadam. So then indirectly we used to get service of so many great devotees, Maybe the brahmacharis, grahasthas, it's like not the distinction will not separate them, but then there are devotees who are practicing very seriously in both the ashrams, and indirectly they are getting service of that. So that brings the competency. And a devotee like Uddhava, he is always with the Lord and his associates, and still he is asking. So from him we can take lessons, how we should approach a devotee actually. A devotee should not be approached in a challenging manner, or maybe in a way that, like the karmis approach anybody, Like they approach somebody and they don't have any respect or any etiquettes, they don't follow anything. So this is very important. Normally we want to know the subject matter, so many subject matters we want to know from Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita. But then the most important is how we deal with the devotees. Because they are the most dear to Krishna. Like Pandavas are more dear to Krishna, isn't it? Than anybody. So he was always with them. Like Arjuna is so dear that sometimes he was with the gopis and Krishna used to give up the association and just be with Arjuna and just speaking with him, whatever subject matters they themselves know. We don't know. So like that, it's like Krishna is very much in love with his devotees. In various pastimes we see, whether it's pastime of Sudama, that he wants to just take the remnants from Sudama and eat it. Although he knows that what is going to happen, how Sudama is hesitant to give that puff rice to Krishna, or it's like Madhumangal. He is having that buttermilk in his mouth and Krishna does, and that comes out actually, and he takes like that. So he knows what's going in our heart, but then he wants to lay his mercy, and that way he gives it. So we see this various ways he deals with his devotees, and with every devotee he is dealing in a different way. According to the way the devotee is competent, or the way he is expecting that reciprocation. So anyway, a devotee like Uddhava, he is competent. So still he is asking that kindly explain to us if you think us competent to receive it. So he is requesting the Lord that to give the transcendental knowledge which he had explained previously to Brahmaji, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the purport it is written, a pure devotee like Uddhava has no material affliction because he engages constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So not only Uddhava, or for that matter Arjuna, he also shouldn't be having any material affliction, but just for us to know how to deal with the Lord, his devotees, and for us to know, that how we are affected by the material energy and how the spiritual energy can just pull us out of this entanglement of birth and death. So that's the reason these devotees, they ask questions. One thing in the West is very good, like at the end, like in India also the questions do come, but then like lot of questions come. It's most like 8-10 questions. It's questions may come on, go on, because it's just we are restricted by time. So that means, the listening is very good. So in that way, Arjuna is also asking so many questions, or maybe Parikshit Maharaj is asking so many questions that about how the jivas entangle, how they can come out of that. They know, because one who is, example, Parikshit Maharaj, is protected by the Lord in the womb. Such a personality, like why he is to fall in, why he will do such a thing like putting a snake on a Brahmana or anything. It's just because the Lord desired. So here also Uddhava is asking this for our benefit. Because the devotee is always, he feels separation from the Lord. But then who is qualified to get this transcendental knowledge? So in the 9th chapter, verse 1, Krishna explained that Shri Bhagavan uvacha idam tu te ghuyatam pravakshyami anusuyave jnanam vijnanam sahitam yat gyatva mokshase shubhat. So here he is answering that. Why a devotee is qualified? So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge. So if we see here that this transcendental knowledge is not ordinary knowledge, and in that also something is that is guhyatam or confidential. So he's saying, Krishna is saying that, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me. Even here in the 4th chapter, that bhakto sime sakacheti, that you are my devotee and friend. So I am explaining this knowledge. Like, I may not give this phone to an outsider. I may give it to a friend or maybe a close relative or somebody whom I know, isn't it? If somebody is envious of me, why would I give this phone to him? Because he may get details, so many details, and he may misuse it, isn't it? So the transcendental knowledge, the spiritual knowledge is given to a person who is not envious to the Lord and his devotees. We see in book distribution, some people, they just, feel, that positive vibration, or they just act positively towards the Lord. And maybe they meet us first time and they just dance with this, or they just, smile at us. So Krishna takes this as a reciprocation that he is not envious of my devotee. Okay? Then next time he gets a chance. And slowly, what happens? Like sometimes it happens in book distribution. Some person comes and he just asks for the set himself. That can you give me these books? That doesn't happen naturally. He has been approached. First time he has raised his hand. Second time some devotee has touched him. Isn't it? In here we do, or in India they just put for, means, in India we have to approach in a way that we just push it. So like that, the devotees have been doing, or sometimes somebody gives a flower or some prasadam, and then that goes further, and then he comes at one point, okay. Then his love in association with the devotee has increased. Yesterday we had been to Sankirtan, and so many, outsiders, I've seen from a long distance, small girl was dancing, or somebody was appreciating, somebody was smiling. But the devils, they were with their bands and they were standing. They were not appreciative actually. I saw them going, they were singing. And then, but then devotees were forcefully giving their mercy, we were singing her. And some people came in front there and they were waiting, so we had to be there for a long time. And they were given mercy, So now that person became a reason for them to get some holy name in the pierce into their ears, So that person became the reason, and then he gets mercy because he became a reason for preaching, Because we stood, because he was dancing, and so we stood there for a long time, and then instead of one holy name, we took 3, 4, 5, and that went to their ears, and some dirt, Like we have this pressure, what do you say, in the kitchen we have, what is the tap with the pressure they use for, some vessels are there, it is having some clinging dirt, immediately, I normally use that. We remove it with pressure, So like that holy name has pierced his heart, and then some material lust and, what is calm, krodh, lobh, that is come, and some envy has decreased. They themselves are not knowing this. Yesterday this group, it was written something like, I didn't see too much because we were 3 of us and engrossed. But one word I see, something of the devil is, I thought, okay, they are behaving like one, isn't it? So somehow they got this mercy. So this envy part means if somebody is so much envious, sometimes they just don't want to listen that Krishna is God, and they just want to, even they will maybe speaking about Jesus, but then they just don't want to listen to what Jesus says also. If you tell the 10 commandments or anything, they just don't want to, they are not bothered to get that thing also, that what he is saying. They end up saying that, oh no, Jesus followed the 10 commandments, it's just to set an example. But for whom he has to set the example? For himself. It is for us, isn't it? But then they don't agree. So that means somewhere this mentality of, means somewhere this acceptance that he is so supreme, or that is not there. That means they are either materially afflicted or they are envious. Normally that is envy, isn't it? Because they think that I am the Lord of everything, and I just want to, if you are the Lord of everything, then you want to enjoy everything that is for you. So that feeling is there. So Krishna is saying, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowledge and realization. So he is giving this confidential knowledge in different steps. So knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So we see that even a newcomer, he is slowly relieved of the distress or the miseries that he is carrying, like calm, krodh, lobh, lust, greed, anger. So many things are there, or some affliction to some sensual pleasures. So this slowly he gives up. So like in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord Arjuna is bewildered and he asks questions. So in the first chapter, it's like, like here Prabhupada is explaining in the part of 9th chapter that the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita of the first chapter is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. Because here Arjuna is afflicted and he has started asking questions. So, and then the second chapter and the third chapter explains the spiritual knowledge which is confidential here it is told. Because second chapter is important, isn't it? Because it distinguishes that you are not his body, you are an eternal spirit soul. Like many times Prabhupada used to tell that this factors time and again, it is like sometimes we get on repetitive, and one devotee said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you have been listening to this, you are not his body and soul, can you tell further? Prabhupada said that you are not understanding this thing. So I have to repeat it time and again. So first thing is that this you have to understand. Because if you understand that as a soul, you are not this body and you are a soul, and you have the connection with the Supreme Spirit soul, then you would like to, follow what process is there to connect with him. Because until like if you understand the second chapter, then slowly, gradually, then you will go further. So, and then comes the 9th chapter where this confidential knowledge is explained. So this is explained to whom? The devotees. Because we already saw that is because they are not envious of the Lord and his devotees. So some way or other, we should make it a case wherein the person in front, he gets, means his dealings with the devotees don't get into envious stage wherein he doesn't hate. Somewhere or other that jiva is coming. Maybe he gets one chance, or maybe we get one chance to preach him. So that time we should be very careful that somehow he gets shelter, then we should be careful to take him further. Whichever he may be, whichever person he may be. Like we see the case of Rasanand Prabhu, isn't it? You all know the pastime, many of you know. Who knows? Rasanand Prabhu was Prabhupada's disciple. So, what used to happen, like Prabhupada and they used to go this was in Paris. So, they used to go to the, yeah. So, they used to go to this morning walk, and and the doors were just like how we have closed doors, but then it was open. And one fine day, one devotee was left, and this person used to go there, and he asked for some food, but he was very unclean and dirty, and so he said, okay, we'll give you food, but just be where you are. And then he gave him some. So then he came there, and one fine day they were leaving like that with Prabhupada, and then he went along with them, and at one stage, he caught hold of Prabhupada's feet. And then Prabhupada calmed him, keeping his lotus hands on his head, and then the devotees took him away, And many times the devotees to find that this person in the bushes, very dirty, disheveled, so they gave him this nickname, Piggy Pen. So he was in the bushes, and sometimes he used to come into Prabhupada, they used to take him and just throw in the bushes and like that. But one fine day, when all devotees had been to Sankirtan, or with Prabhupada they had been, so he went to the temple, and he was inside the temple, he entered inside in the temple. So when they came back, they saw, and they were about to take him. But then Prabhupada stopped them, that let him be there. So now Prabhupada had told, then they have to agree, isn't it? So then, in this condition, how they will keep him here? So they took him upstairs and bathed him and shaved him and cleaned him thoroughly, We see sometimes many people are disheveled and it's all dirt around lying. Such way he was actually. But then he shaved him, and then he started doing some services in the temple, and slowly, whatever service he was getting, he was doing that. So one fine day, they went for book distribution, all his devotees, and he also sat in the van in the seat next to the driver, something like that. And then the devotees said, "Oh, Piggy Pen, means you want to come?" Then they were laughing among themselves that, oh, what he is going to do coming over there. So finally, one of them said, okay, let him come. Let him try, and then people will, people will not agree with him, and, he has to move from that place. That time he'll come back. So let him. And when they were having their breakfast or something that day, so what happened? This Piggy Pen, he took some books, and then he went for distribution. And Then the devotees were having prasadam, and then he came with an empty bag. And then slowly, he started going with them regularly and distributing books. So like that
He told
then,
Prabhupada saved me. He would tell everyone, his line was, Prabhupada saved me. He would tell
yeah,
He said to everyone.
yeah. Yeah, can you repeat me? I know that thing, but I'm not correct.
Yeah, so he packed a bag full of Adidas, and he just like darted out the car immediately. And they were thinking about stopping him, but he would just let him go. So any karma he would meet, he would just give him a book. And the only line he would say, Prabhupada saved me.
Prabhupada saved me. Yeah. This was there in the. Yeah, Prabhupada saved me. Yeah. So, in fact, some devotees also asked this, what you say. And he said, Prabhupada saved me. And, they had to agree. So, like that, even in India, like we had one devotee coming to our, Baroda temple. She was a lady and she was with my wife. And then she was initially not speaking anything, just shy and being, her grandfather used to tell her that, please tell her something, and so that she speaks out. And then it's like more than 2 years or 3 years she's been coming. So some services she used to do, distributing pamphlets or maybe arranging the books or something she started doing. Then she started applying tilak, coming for. Now she's distributing around within an hour or so, 8 to 10 books she's distributing. Initially, it's like Mukam Karoti Vachalam, seeing, like you become an eloquent speaker just by, by the mercy of the spiritual master. So we used to tell that we go to Prabhupada and pray and then start. So she started doing that. And so many things. So just by being the association of devotees and not being envious of the Lord and the devotees. Because the Lord is there, His message is there, but you are constantly with the devotees. So you have to be very careful. You don't know anybody's platform. Anybody's platform. There was one devotee, it was Drutakarma Prabhu only. He should come and lay in the temple and just sit, and devotees wanted to say that why he is doing like that and we should not let him. But Prabhupada said, let him come. And now he's, he has become a treasure for ISKCON, isn't it? Because his preaching is helping so, because he is preaching to the higher class and there. So, but then Prabhupada could see that, You can't see that jiva, if you see ourselves, the past where we were before coming to devotional life, everybody of us knows who we are, I had such long hair and I used to hear all these Western songs, Brian Adams and Boyzones and all these things. I was cling with all these things. So, but then suddenly I should give so much trouble to my parents and, in my final year, I was staying in a hostel and then some complaints started going and then I was frustrated and I said, why I am doing these things? Because I don't want all these things to go to my parents. And then suddenly, I was at my house and in my house there was Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita in Marathi language. I speak Marathi, the mother tongue is Marathi. And even one other edition also was there. So, but then I took this Bhagavad Gita. I was very frustrated that day. Because I got, that day I had caused immense trouble to my parents and I had not eaten food for the whole day. So then, suddenly I took this Bhagavad Gita and then I had one photo of the Lord which I took from, on the roadside in India I took. And it was some deity from ISKCON, I don't know which one. Because I don't have that photo somehow. And I offered incense to the Lord and just started reading, I read the preface, I read further. And then it clicked to my mind, something is there essential in this book. So Prabhupada saved me, like Rasanand Prabhu. Like Rasanand Prabhu also became a great book distributor. So many of us are saved by the Lord or mostly by His devotees. Because His devotees give us something, that is, so we should be very careful dealing with them. Because if you please a devotee, then whatever confidential knowledge he has, that we will receive. If you offend him, then, our confidential knowledge, we may end up, means by offending him, we may not end up, but then it will be cover for us, to that knowledge, it is there, but then we will have a cover of Maya that for time being. So, like that. So, then slowly I got the association of devotees and then one fine day in 2004 I started following the 4 regulatory principles. But then in my case, it was the devotees, First Prabhupada gave this, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, some book distributor gave this book. Then I read that, and then some devotees, they took care of me, they gave me prasadam, they called me. So much endure is there. But then, so that devotees are doing more than the Lord. So we should be very careful with that. So here Uddhava is requesting, what's the time? 8:24, okay. So Uddhava is requesting that the Lord enlightens him with the essential knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this knowledge is like Bhagavad Gita is telling, what is the purpose of human form, and then Bhagavatam goes further, It gives various case studies, like how if somebody like the case study of like the pastime of Ajamil tells like how lust can be so dangerous, isn't it? If his son's name was not Narayan, he would not have been, he would be ending in hell. But that was just because of a devotee. The saints, they came and they guided him. But of course, that was also because before coming in touch with that prostitute, he was practicing sincerely. So whenever we are practicing, that time we should make an effort that we should do that act sincerely. Because we don't know what is on our pathway, Suddenly there can be an accident. And we like the way we may end up in a hospital for 6 months, like that. Suddenly there will be, an accident in our spiritual life. Anything can happen. We have seen so many great devotees, suddenly they are like out of the track. You are an expert driver, but suddenly something's wrong. You feel sleepy and then like that. So like that it happens. Like Prabhupada says, there are accidents on royal roads also. So the spiritual path is a royal road, but then if you are not careful, then accidents are to happen. So we have to be very careful in all our dealings. So I heard some Maharaj, and he told that what are services are we doing, in that we should be observed. So he told that one nice sentence, he told that it is a service to be observed in your service. Means in your service you should be observed. That is also a service. Normally we are doing some service, maybe we are doing aarti to the Lord, but then we have to be conscious of the time and everything. But then at the same time we should be conscious that we are serving the Lord by this aarti and every paraphernalia that we are offering. That has a purpose, and so in that way we should be doing and everything. Like sometime I remember that I was new in aarti, and then Guru Maharaj's photo I was keeping, and the table was a little wet, and I just thought, no, if Guru Maharaj is here right in front, I should not, distinction should not happen, if he is sitting on this, would I leave little water or moisture? No. Then I wiped it thoroughly and no moisture was there. And then suddenly that aarti that I was doing, I found it very easy to do. And sometimes we are conscious of the time and devotees and so many things. So the point that affects me or for many of us is that the devotees, and in our case it's like Prabhupada is affecting us. Prabhupada affects us every day, in fact. Isn't it? It is this morning, the whole program that is given to us, it's Prabhupada's. Whether it is like morning, if Prabhupada had not kept Mangal Aarti, I many times in Puri we go and we stay in the Gaudiya Mutt. So after Mangal Aarti, it's like totally you're independent. But here it happened, Mangal Aarti, then we chant, then we have Guru Puja, then we have Bhagavatam, thereafter Prasadam, then there are services. If we don't have services, then we, because of being associated with devotees, we start reading, we start hearing. So the whole process is given by Prabhupada, and it's so beautiful, During the day, either we distribute books or we read something or we are into some service. Then again in the evening we have Aarti, Gaur Aarti, and then Bhagavad Gita class, and then we end up sleeping. But how we sleep? We don't sleep like an ignorant person. But then in the whole day is like past association with devotees, isn't it? So how the sleep will be there? I was a Gurukul ashram teacher, and I've seen sometimes our Gurukul used to in their sleep. I have seen this actually doing, because they are doing aarti and they are maybe attached to that, and so we have seen that doing. So twice I have seen this thing actually, They are conscious, so much conscious. So this is very good because, so always be in association of devotees. Like there is, we say, always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So always be in association of devotees and never leave their association. That helps us because sometimes we are lethargic and then what happens then? The devotee, he says, Prabhu, and then we wake up. Isn't it? And or else, we are going easy ways and he catches hold of that and like that. So anyway, so Srimad Bhagavatam, anyway, the point I was telling that, like the case of Ajamil, we saw that how lust can take us so deeply into hell, Or the case of Bharat Maharaj, we take, because of attachment, what can happen? So in our case also, all around us, who are even our family members, our children, our, all, not for brahmacharis, but for grahasthas who are to be or who are grahasthas, then for them it is like all around us, you are, they are deers roaming around, And if you get attracted to them, then what will happen? You'll end up. If a man is attracted to a woman, what will happen? You'll get that body if he's liable enough to get that body next life. If he's not liable, then still in some female form he will go and he will associate with the male. Isn't it? So for that reasons, we should go on reading Bhagavatam, even if you have read once, twice, or go on listening. Constantly, some way or other we should associate with the Bhakta Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat. But association with the Bhakta Bhagavat, we should be very careful. We should not, if we end up treating him as an ordinary jiva, then it will be like, it will be destruction for us. Like sometimes, we are traveling, we put a lecture and we are just talking about ourselves, so better to not put the lecture or something like that. Or you just listen to that properly. So, so that way we should be. Means I'm not saying that you don't do, for kirtan it is okay that somebody is listening, but then if you are talking, then better to not, Kirtan we can do, but if you are hearing to a devotee or something, better. So like that we should be, at every stage, if you are conscious, then, then the material energy, she will not pull us to her. She is always ready to deal with you. She is 24/7 into 365, by every millisecond she is working. Why she is working? But she is working because nobody unqualified goes there. So this confidential knowledge the Srimad Bhagavatam is giving. Like how in Grahastha life entanglement happens, so many things are discussed, isn't it? In Bhagavatam so many things are there. If you read everything, like I remember when I started reading the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada has mentioned the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, I have never counted, but then so many times, So when I was not in touch with the ISKCON or the devotees, but somehow Prabhupada has mentioned that Mahamantra so many times. Like I had made one diary and I used to write that, Mahamantra. So that is because, because of the mercy of Prabhupada we should get. So that book, even that person, whomever he may be, qualified or not qualified, so if it goes there, specifically Srimad Bhagavatam, it's going to affect him like anything. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is what? He is like understanding the whole, means the Supreme Personal Godhead in its fullness. Because what is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam? All the transcendental pastimes of the Lord and His devotees. So that way he goes on reading, and then that envy in his heart, it goes, and then he gets affected, and then this confidential knowledge he is ready to receive. Or else, so people have so many questions, and slowly, then when the questions are answered, and then sometimes some people ask so many questions, and then when they are relieved of, that time they are just they are having that anarthas, and slowly that anarthas are moved away because of the devotees giving him knowledge, and then he starts accepting this knowledge. So anyway, so by the mercy of devotees like Uddhava, we are getting to get this knowledge, or by the mercy of Parikshit Maharaj, Arjun, and by Prabhupada's mercy, and why vary our own spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj. We are getting that essential confidential knowledge. But it's up to you, up to us, that how we take it. That we may take the food and just gulp it. Or we may chew it nicely and then take the rasa, the juices. Isn't it? Srimad Bhagavatam has all the juices. But then if we don't be careful, then what will happen? Indigestion will happen. And then we'll not be ready to accept what is there in the book. And so many people we see that they end up, they don't want to take this part of the Bhagavatam or that part, and they want, this is for that time, and this is for this place, and so many conditions they lay. But then if they take the rasa carefully, then what will happen? That will digest, and then it will not cause any problem to, like the way we eat food. Anyway, Hare Krishna. So, anybody has any questions, doubts, or anybody wants to correct in anything that I've spoken wrong? Yeah.
So, by the mercy of the devotees, we come into Krishna consciousness. And then we see that sometimes we also lose the mercy of the devotees. And so how does one go about getting that mercy of the devotees back? What is that kind of like? What is the general process recommended within the... Or like, what have you seen? Because like you're saying, sometimes even great devotees, they fall out. But then it's like, sometimes it seems that fall out so bad, it's like, even amongst that association of devotees, they more or less reject him completely. So then what is that like situation for that person?
So, Srila Prabhupada tells this, that means the process of devotional service depends on the attitude of the person, isn't it? Of that bhakta or devotee. So, if he has done I told, like here Krishna is telling that, I am telling this knowledge to you because you are not envious, isn't it? The 9th chapter we just went through that. So, that part of, like, it should be, like, you yourself answered the question actually, that the mercy comes through, normally through the devotees, isn't it? So, if somewhere he has done offended or some factors like, if he has offended means he is either envious or he is not understanding. So, that requires the mercy of the devotees again. Or like, we see many cases where some devotees have left and they have come back again. One devotee, he took the risk to preach at a very difficult place. I don't remember the place yet. And this was in I think so, Jai Srila Prabhupada by Guru Maharaj, I think so. I don't remember the book also. But then, I think so, it was in Japan or some, I don't remember exactly. So he went and Prabhupada has assured him, that if you go and preach, I think so it was in Japan only, and he was the one who agreed. And then what happened? After Prabhupada leaving, he went out of spiritual life and he gave up and in his final days, Krishna pulled him back. He again, he had cancer and he had to come to Vrindavan. So, maybe we are not in touch of the devotee, but then, what he's going through or some effect must be happening. Because the Lord is Hari, he's not going to, he's going to, means Hari means one who, Hari means one who takes everything from you. So, that way, if the devotee is still not in touch, but if he has, that non-enviousness, at least 0.01% at least, then he has the chance to come back. Anyway, devotional life is not a failure. So even if he fails here, it's going to go further. Like I told him in my example, like I was nowhere. I was in the association of all Sanatan friends, Hindu friends, in layman's language, what we call Hindu. But they used to joke on Lord and so many. I was not encouraging them, but I was not denying them also. So that was becoming an hurdle for me, isn't it? But then slowly, by Prabhupada's mercy, it came. So maybe the Lord is making so much arrangements for one jiva to come back to Godhead. So he must be one who has given some bit of time or maybe some service to the Lord. He is not going to leave that jiva. So he will make arrangement that somehow he sees devotees or he gets the association of devotees. That must be happening in the background, like in the background just offering happened and we don't know what is the offering. So like that, in the case of that devotee, things may be working because Krishna knows, how it is going. And he will be, he will come on the track again. So it's like the Supreme Lord, once he has taken shelter, once he has given a little bit of sincere service, he will be, somehow or other Krishna will arrange for him. Of course, he should not be envious of the Lord and his devotees. If he is like totally envious, then it's difficult. Because specifically of the devotees, if he is envious, it's very difficult. And it's like, until he doesn't fall to the lotus feet of the devotees whom he has offended, it's like difficult. So it's like, only the Lord knows and the devotee knows. What? You're okay with this? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. This kind of came up yesterday. So there's a devotee, and he's not living up to like proper standards. He's like not chanting 16 rounds. He's speaking Mayavad. If there's discussions going on speaking about the character of this devotee and how he's not up to par, it could be seen as offensive. But on the other end, is it that when devotees aren't living up to par and they're, going against Prabhupada's teachings, is it that we should just say, oh, okay, at least he's initiated, he's trying, and not say anything? Or should we address it? Because, like you said, we shouldn't be offensive to devotees, but on the other end, if somebody is preaching things against Srila Prabhupada, it should be addressed. So how do you balance not offending devotees who are not living up to proper standard while, trying to preach the pure message of Krishna consciousness?
So if the devotees among the means if the devotees means he comes in the association of devotees, in that case, like it's like in India, if the mother-in-law wants to teach something to the daughter-in-law, what she does, she tells her daughter that can't you cook rice properly and this way. Means she points the defects in her daughter in such a eloquent way that the daughter-in-law, she understands that, okay, this is what she is being doing, I should not be doing. Means she speaks in such a way that the daughter-in-law is not affected by what is being told, what is the defect being told there. But then she gets the message that, okay, this is what I also do. So like that, a devotee should expertly give him that message. Isn't it? If like devotee has compassion, isn't it? So we want to save him. So somehow, like we have to tell him some way or other. Maybe in the form when we are giving classes, we can be like classes not just to we focus on that person, isn't it? It's for everybody's benefit. So that time we can elaborate, what is helpful for devotees, isn't it? So that way. Example, if somebody cooked and somebody says, oh, too much of salt he is putting, we can say, okay, it must have happened. So it may happen with, and sometimes Krishna does it, like Krishna lets him know that, make example, he is cooking and that's all happens to be more by his cooking. Then he understands, okay, I've been doing some things wrong. So like that, Krishna is an expert in all these different arts. So he is expert in making arrangements for the jiva to come also. So we have to tell that. It's not that, okay, he will feel, the patient comes and the doctor wants to treat him. So if the injury has to be rubbed with the spirit and clean, so it has to be done. So sometimes we have to be straightforward, sometimes we have to tell him in a loving way, sometimes in a compassionate way. So it depends on a circumstance and which place and how it is happening. If he is friendly to you, in talks you can just tell him. Or if he's not in that stage that he is going to listen to you, then we can tell it through somebody. Because that we have to do using our intelligence, and Krishna guides us. If we are sincere to help that jiva, then Krishna guides us. Are you satisfied with what I said, or like you have any question? Any
No,
doubts?
it was in regard to the situation.
Then,
Also,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can explain that.
I know, it's-
Question. Your
No,
question.
so, quick comment to that. It also has to be seen in the mood it's done also. Sometimes it's done with the mood that we are better.
Mhm.
Then you're also in a problem. Oh, look, we are so much better than this person. But that person, at one point, had the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and was like one of the main disciples preaching, and Srila Prabhupada was happy with them. And they're in that position, and you're sitting there, and now they're in a bad position, and you're laughing and joking and thinking in a certain way we're better.
That is offensive.
Then it's a problem.
Yeah.
If it's done for educational purposes, with the proper understanding that, it's like, okay, come on, it's like, there's like, this is why it's not good, this is why it's not good. But if it's done with this ego attitude of like, oh look, we're doing so much better. They're doing like this, we're doing so much better. They're fallen, we're higher. Then you're at a problem. As soon as you're thinking you're better than that, you should know, okay, cautious. We can end up like that. If this person is right under Srila Prabhupada, he's initiated by Prabhupada, big disciple.
Yeah.
But he's ended up like that. You think you're going to be okay, and you think you can sit there and put your false ego up. Then you're at fault.
Yeah.
Then Krishna's not happy.
Mhm.
So you have to be careful how you do it. There's a proper mood and attitude of doing those things. But then generally neophytes, they don't know how to do it, and then they think, then somebody may say, well, be a little careful how you do that. Then say, how? Then should we not say anything? No, that's not the point. You should say something, but it should be done in proper mood and attitude.
Yeah.
So it depends. Yes, we speak out against anything that is not in line of Srila Prabhupada, but then you have to see how you do that, because that makes a big difference. So you may be right in terms of philosophy, but then your attitude, like you were saying, it depends on the attitude of the follower. But then your attitude is wrong in the way you're following. You're following, but then your attitude is wrong in following. Then you didn't follow, because it's a part of the culture and the mood and way of devotional service to do everything via Vaishnava. Prabhupada writes, we were reading yesterday some of the letters on book distribution to book distributors. Everything should be done like a Vaishnava. So then you have to know what that culture is. Otherwise we bring in this tamasic American culture into our idea of what Krishna consciousness is, and then becomes confusing.
Yeah. Like Prabhupada was like, his god brothers, they were, they are not appreciating what Prabhupada did. But then Prabhupada, at some point, he wanted that the Gaudiya mission should be joining us, but they were not willing. And now if you see, so Prabhupada was criticizing them, but then he was not envious, or he didn't have any grudge against them or anything in there. So there is, if you see the difference, their attitude was quite different to Prabhupada. Means few of them, they had a lot of reverence and gratitude, and their attitude was very good towards Prabhupada. But then most of them, they like if you see the condition now, that is because their approach towards that personality was like not the way Prabhupada had actually. So if you see the dealings, like Prabhupada taught by his own example, like how you should deal with a devotee. Like the case of Rasanand Prabhu, he dealt so nicely, and then we got a gem of, he was already a gem, but then, he was lying in that cold field and he pulled. So like that, this Prabhupada's, I find this Prabhupada's pastimes very attractive in the way that Prabhupada teaches the dealings actually. So it's like the Bhakta Bhagavata is, sometimes like we are dealing with him. We may read the Bhagavatam, but we may understand in a different way. But the Bhakta Bhagavata's dealings, it helps. I think, okay. Mataji's, yeah. Mic, you can give her the mic.
So, in instances where sincere efforts are made to please superiors, but these superiors apparently remain dissatisfied, how do we not feel discouraged?
I didn't get the first part.
Yeah, so basically, if we're in the process of, trying to please our superiors, trying to gain their mercy, they remain dissatisfied with us. How do we not feel discouraged?
Yeah. So, in that case, like, if we see the various devotees, how they dealt, like Raja Rudra Pratap, like he was rejected by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and time and again he wanted to gain that mercy. So you go on doing. I'm saying that we can take inspiration from the lives of devotees, like Prabhupada, if we take his life. So like, it's so difficult, with 40 rupees worth Indian value, but then he came. He was also rejected, he was also, disrespected, so many things happened. So if we study the lives of great devotees, then that will inspire us. I know it's discouraging, but then if you go on continuing, someday it will occur, that, or you can just ask, what is the way I should do it? In a humble mode, if you ask, that devotee may reveal. Maybe our dealings with him are happening in such a way that we may feel, okay, we are feeling that he is not satisfied, and it may be that for us to do the service in a most better way, the best possible way, he is trying to, keep the standard high. That may also be the case. So we can either check with the devotee that how we can do that in an efficient way, or what are the loopholes or anything we can check ourselves, or maybe we can check from him that what satisfies. So the best thing is to continue our service, means we have to increase our standards of what we are doing. And after that, some fine day the change will happen. But we don't have to be discouraged, because at the end, Guru, Krishna, Prabhupada, they know, Krishna knows how much effort we have put or which we have done. So you continue and don't get discouraged or don't feel bad about the authority or anybody. Then what will happen? Slowly these revelations will increase. Or we may become humble and take that in a good way. It is always good, a person who corrects us is very good. Or he wants to raise our standard, it's very good actually. Because that person is thinking about you. If that person is not, example, garland is made. If he says, okay, why not this way? He wants you to, you can do more better than that. But then maybe because of some restriction or because of something you're not able to do, he wants to help you go further. So that is also another way to see, means that he wants to get the better out of us. Like Prabhupada got the better out of everybody, isn't it? Like, now we have Kurma Prabhu, such a great, excellent, like he is very good with making prasadam, or for that matter, somebody like, what is that? That Radha Rasberry temple, and what is this? Vrindavan temple, who made that? Who was the architect for that? So, I don't remember his name. But then both the temples, he was done by that same personality, and Vrindavan and Radha Rasberry temple. So anyway, Prabhupada assigned these things, and so that made like you to go on repeating something and start increasing the standard, then slowly you'll become an expert in that. So the outlook, if you take it in a way that, okay, this is for me to benefit, then we can go more further. That will help us actually. So don't get discouraged, because even Prabhupada had so much to go with before coming to this stage. And now also people criticize him. So like, what about us, We are just a tiny insignificant jiva in this whole material world. So we should not take it so heavily on us, And that way we will get the mercy of that devotee also. I hope this satisfies you. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.